to Virginia. We're going to go to Julian Walker. You know him from the Virginian Pilot, one of our chief analysts, and we can't have anything going on in politics in Virginia without hearing from Julian Walker. Julian, I know it's been a long night. Great to have you with us.
Good morning, John.
Your analysis on what went down last night in the Commonwealth.
Well, in the Commonwealth, I think the lesson that we've learned now over the last several election cycles is this. Be skeptical of public opinion polling, and that is not to be critical of anybody that does polls, but be skeptical because we've seen now in 2 consecutive cycles, as you and I have discussed before, that polling in the run-up to Election Day has suggested that one candidate has had a comfortable, if not massive, lead, and that has all but evaporated on Election Day and turned into squeakers of races. That's number one. Number two is be prepared for potential recounts. We had one last year. We had one in 2005, both in the Attorney General's race. Last night, as of midnight, Mr. Gillespie had not conceded. There was about an 18,000 vote margin. That's still within 1%. It's a big hill to climb, a lot of votes to overcome if he pursues the recount route. But those are my 2 takeaways. Watch out for what the polls are telling you in statewide elections in Virginia, and always be on the lookout for a possible recount.
Now, let's go to Southwest Virginia. We were talking about this earlier, Julian. Huge majorities run up by Gillespie there and Republicans as a whole. And now, there was a time when I first came to the state that, Warner was winning Southwest Virginia back in 2008. Now he got annihilated there. But the way that Southwest Virginia has turned and the turnout they had was stunning.
Well, I think a couple things. Listen, Mark Warner in 2001 when he ran for governor, did very well in Southwest Virginia and, really kind of was able to get those Reagan Democrats, if you will. Everyone remembers, his sponsorship of the NASCAR vehicle in one of the races down there. Everybody remembers the famed bluegrass ditty that was supportive of Mark Warner. So he struck all the right chords there. But remember, we're talking about, an election almost 15 years ago at this point. The face of this nation has changed in many ways politically. The dynamics of Virginia have changed politically. Virginia was considered at that point pretty much reliably Republican. Now it's more of a battleground swing purple state, but Virginia continues to swing back and forth. I think what you saw in Southwest Virginia as it relates to Senator Warner last night was the fact that, this is the 6-year itch that we see with second-term presidents. We saw it with President George W. Bush, and that was over, the engagements in the Middle East. We see it with President Obama. That's over any number of things, immigration, Ebola, ISIS, all kinds of things. So we see this kind of backlash. It's not unexpected to see backlash in a midterm election. This was particularly potent and powerful backlash, but I don't know that it was necessarily unexpected. And the fact that Warner didn't run up the kinds of margins that he did in previous elections in Southwest Virginia perhaps suggests an erosion of his support out there. But I would posit that in some respects it is also a reflection of the overall mood of the country, and a lot of that is attributable to feelings about Barack Obama and also the status and state of his presidency being in year 6, being in that truly lame duck category.
Well, not only lame duck, but one of the things we were talking about earlier, Julian, is Obama on the campaign trail became almost toxic. Let's take Maryland. He went to Maryland 2 times to show support in the campaign for Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown, the favorite there to win in Maryland. Maryland, a deep blue state. As you know, their former governor, very liberal, is going to run for president. Obama went there 2 times in the last 3 weeks and this weekend to campaign for Anthony Brown. Brown expected to win there. A very underfunded conservative comes out of nowhere, Larry Hogan, and crushes Brown by 10 points. What's going on?
Well, I think, again, that is reflective of where we are at this moment in time, and also in the fact that we've seen this now for the past several election cycles, whether it was the rise of the Tea Party, whether it was the movement that you saw, and these are politically polar opposites, whether it was some of the elements of Occupy Wall Street. there is so much voter dissatisfaction out there, and so there is anti-incumbent fervor. We saw that here, even in Virginia, with the ouster of former Majority Leader Eric Cantor. So this cuts, in my view, this cuts across all political affiliations. This is about people being unhappy with an economy that is still not fully righted itself, with the direction of this country, people feeling pessimistic about that, and as a result, in this instance, Democrats took it on the teeth, but I don't know that it's necessarily about Democrats or Republicans or Democrats. I think it's just an overall mentality of throw the bums out, and if you are affiliated with, the incumbent, to use your Maryland example, that's going to cost you.
It is going to cost you, and I want to go a step further now, and let's talk a little bit about the future. All right, the end of the day, regardless of the percentage, Warner wins. There's going to be a recount. He's going to win that. He's going to get reelected. Now, Julian, what that means is right now through 2017, no Republican elected in Virginia on a statewide level. So the Republicans would have gone with a statewide office holder in the Commonwealth 2013, 14, 15, 16, and 17. The next chance they have to get somebody elected statewide is in 2017. What type of candidate are Republicans going to be looking to nominate at their convention in Richmond in May of 2017 who could possibly win?
Well, that's a really interesting question, John, and I had some discussions with people on Twitter about this last night. And the one question which you and I have discussed before is whether or not, this Gillespie campaign, and I believe that Ed Gillespie was serious about his ambitions for Senate, but there are those who have suggested or speculated that this was a trial balloon campaign for him, in some ways to follow the path of Mark Warner and Terry McAuliffe, who ran for statewide office in Virginia before unsuccessfully, came back, figured out the formula, and were successful the second time around. At this point, we don't know whether or not Mr. Gillespie is going to pursue that path and that strategy. What we know is that Mr. Gillespie, after the 2013 cycle, when Republicans elected a conservative ticket, that Mr. Gillespie, who is perceived in some respects as kind of more mainstream or establishment Republican, that he came very, very, very close to knocking off what looked like an unbeatable incumbent, up until the final weeks of this race. Does that give him some ammunition to make the case that I am electable in Virginia and Republicans should go with, the more broadly appealing candidate, the more mainstream candidate? Or will conservatives in turn say, we gave you one of yours, establishment Republicans, and he still didn't get over the top, so we should revert back to form. We should go back to the people that embody our true conservative, firm position. So, it's a great question. It's a hard one to answer because 2017 is a couple of years away, and because you can argue both sides of it. You could say that Gillespie proved that a mainstream, quote-unquote establishment candidate can do well in Virginia. You could also say well enough, or close enough only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
You're right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be very interesting how the convention goes. My personal take is that when we start to get there, Republicans in Virginia are going to be looking for an outsider, and they're going to be looking for a winner. I'm not sure Gillespie is going to fit that bill. Remember, he went Roanoke convention, should have gotten 80% there. He got Shaq Hill, who challenged him with $20,000 or something, had got 40%. I think it's going to be tough. If it was a primary, Gillespie would be the favorite. In a convention format, it's going to be a little bit tougher. My sense is there's going to be an outsider that comes in as somebody from not one of the insiders, somebody that doesn't have a track record of losing, which now all these guys have. You'll get all these candidates that are going to be running for governor on the Republican side. They've all got an L by their name, and they got a big one. Mark Obenshain had a 6-point lead in the final week, got beat by Mark Herring. You've got now Gillespie going in. Yeah, it was close, but he got beat. A lot of these candidates have a big L by their name. I think you're going to find someone that doesn't. I think Republicans are going to be looking for a conservative who they think can win and shake things up.
Well, but remember, though, quickly, as we just said, Mark Warner had an L by his name before he had a W by his name. Terry McAuliffe had an L by his name before he had a W by his name. So, one loss does not make a political loser, particularly when it's a very close race. If you get blown out, then maybe you get written off by your respective party. But if you keep it close and you outperform expectations, you outperform polling, you can make a credible argument that, hey, I'm a comer, I'm legitimate, I have a shot.
Too legit to quit. That's going to be the final word for Julian Walker. We appreciate, Julian, your being on our show. Hey, when we get you back, as soon as this thing reconvenes, we got to get this e-fairness thing out of Bob Goodlet's top drawer, man. It's driving me nuts.
Absolutely.